All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and welcome to this Every Day Can Be Payday generic revenue sharing webinar where we're going to talk about this phenomenal revenue sharing compensation model. My name again is T. Lamont Silver Sr. Everyone calls me T. Lamont. We've been in the home business space for now 19 years, going on 20. Had some phenomenal successes because of tremendous mentors in our lives. We've been able to build multiple seven-figure business interests. As a matter of fact, we're building one as we speak. We're not here to talk about any specific company, however. Every Day Can Be Payday is not a company, nor are we here tonight to endorse any specific company. What we are here to do is we are a team of entrepreneurs that are leveraging and teaching others to leverage a revolutionary revenue-sharing compensation model. Now, the work-at-home niche is an extremely powerful model. I love it because it allows people from all walks of life to build an additional income stream at their own pace. So you take someone like yours truly, who's a college kick-out. I didn't graduate from college. If I were to go back now, it would mess up my story. So a college kick-out that was, trying to find his way when he found this industry, delivering pizzas, 6400 East Independence Boulevard, Charlotte, North Carolina at that time. And I wasn't met with success right away. It took a while, but eventually we got to the point where we were able to make a rent and then a house payment from our business, and then we were able to replace an income, and then we were able to be full-time, and then we were able to have a complete lifestyle change. I love that about this industry, but we know that there's some challenges with this industry, and the challenge is that if you're going to generate revenue, if you're going to make money, typically it is required up to this point that you were either good at recruiting, you were good at sponsoring, or you were good at selling. And if you weren't good at any of those, then you probably weren't going to make much money, much less have the potential to make enough to pay a house note, much less have the potential to replace an income. How many of you have ever felt like the young lady up at the top left? Oh my gosh, I got bills. I came online. I'm trying to find a way to make money. I'm not really good at recruiting or sponsoring, or maybe you're the guy at the bottom left that's just just frustrated because he knows somebody's making money online, somebody's taking care of that family, somebody's living their dreams. I've gone to the $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 workshops that's supposed to show me how to make money online. I've joined this and I've joined that, and I've done this and I've done that, and it's still not working out for me. Can anyone relate? If you can relate, feel free to put a Y in your questions box. All right. Now, so this is the challenge. This is the challenge. And listen. If this is a challenge, which it is, and we can find a solution to this challenge and share it with others, ladies and gentlemen, that could literally completely change our financial lives. Well, you're going to hear about that solution tonight. Now, you'll get back with the person who referred you and find out about the specific company that they are offering as a solution. But here's the solution. The Every Day Can Be Payday revenue sharing model solves this dilemma. What's this dilemma? I'm not good at recruiting. That's a dilemma. I'm not good at sponsoring. That's a dilemma. I'm not good at selling. That's a dilemma. But this model is going to solve this dilemma. Why? Because this compensation model is where the company that you're promoting for will take the bulk of its daily commissionable sales revenue and they put it into a pool. And what happens is the companies that have figured this out the best share as much as 50% of their daily revenues. They put it in a pool, and then they divide that up amongst their qualified affiliates or representatives or promoters, whatever that company may actually call it. Now, qualified affiliates then receive a proportionate share of the company's daily revenue payout. So if that company generates revenue today, it's going to put a portion of that into a pool and pay their representatives, pay their affiliates, their distributors, their promoters, whatever they call it. Now, the top companies leveraging this model, they don't even require that their affiliates have to refer other affiliates. I want you to hear that. The companies that have figured this model out the best do not require that you have to recruit one on the left and one on the right, or have to recruit 3 to qualify, or have to recruit 5 or 10. If you haven't recruited one affiliate, the top companies using this model still reward you. So that solves the dilemma that says, I'm not good at recruiting, I'm not good at sponsoring, nobody wants to hear about another opportunity from me because I've tried to share 17 opportunities in the last 16 weeks and none of them made any money. Solves that dilemma. Typically, the affiliates that are leveraging these companies, in order for them to earn money that day, they have to complete a small task or tasks. Very simple tasks. Now listen, I want you to do me a favor. I need your assistance on the other side in this presentation. I want several of you to open up your questions box and tell me, how much time per day does it normally take you to complete your company's required task in order for you to generate revenue? How much time per day? How much time per day does it take you? Does it take you an hour? Does it take you 2 hours? Does it take you 30 minutes? How long does it take you? All right. Someone said about 30 seconds. Someone said 10 minutes. Someone said 5 minutes. Someone said 30 minutes to 2 hours. Someone said a couple of minutes. Someone said, oh, I actually get to farm out my daily tasks. Actually, several of you have said that. I get to farm out my daily tasks, so it really doesn't take me that time. The task is completed, but I get to farm it out, and I don't really even have to worry about it, okay? My point here, ladies and gentlemen, the companies that have figured this out the best, and the person who said it took 2 hours, I'm not sure what company you're promoting there, but typically we're seeing a few minutes a day, or perhaps even being able to farm out your task or tasks, allow you to generate revenue, not tied to having to recruit affiliates. Now, as you'll learn in this model, if you can recruit some affiliates, you'll want to, because that just means you can make more money quicker, but you don't have to. All right, now, here's what happens. Affiliates obtain a proportionate share of that day's revenue by obtaining what we're going to call in this webinar revenue sharing credits, or credits for short. Now, some companies refer to them as credits, some refer to them as points, some refer to them as units. I'll tend to use credits or points or credits. Excuse me. They're one and the same. So if I say credits, I mean points. If I say points, I mean credits. Okay? Now, there's typically a number of ways that we, the affiliates, can earn points or earn credits. Here's a couple ways. One, let's say a retail customer goes to your site. Now, typically, there's going to be products or services that the end user, someone who's not tied to the income model, can buy. Typically, you're not going to have to store up inventory. You're not going to have to buy inventory and store it up in your basement or store it up in your garage. Okay. However, your customer can go to your site, and whatever your company's product or service is, normally if that customer pulls out a credit card or a debit card and makes a purchase, you would generate some points or some credits that way. Now, I'm painting with a broad stroke, so in many cases, for every $1 they spend, you get 1 point or 1 credit for revenue sharing purposes. That'll become clearer to you in just a few moments. Another way, all right, so here's an example. John Smith goes to your site, buys $100 worth of stuff, whatever the stuff happens to be, whatever the products or services your company has to offer. Typically, you can earn as much as 100 credits when John makes that purchase, okay? Now, the second way that you can earn points or credits is something that you can control. Because what you can't control, you can't control whether or not John's going to go to your site and make a purchase. We hope John's going to go to the site. We hope Johnetta is going to go to the site. We hope that Paul is going to go to the site. We hope that Pauline is going to go to the site. But we can't control that. What we can control is another way that we can generate points and or credits. The top companies allow we, the affiliates, to purchase samples of our company's product or service so that we can give to customers. For every $1 of a sample purchase that we buy, and then when we give away that company's product, we earn a revenue sharing credit or revenue sharing point. All right? Now, this is what this means, okay? T. Lamont, I'm not good at recruiting or sponsoring or selling. Not good at selling. Now you're telling me that I've got to go and get customers. Well, here's the beautiful part. The companies that have figured this out the best allow you to register customers free of charge. As a matter of fact, many of these companies will, that while they may not be able to endorse any specific third-party system, many folks will have a third-party system where they can go and purchase customer registrations, people that are already shown an interest in your company's product or service or the type of product and service your company has to offer. And you can purchase, in many cases, these customer registrations, and then you can give away your samples to these customers that have registered. Okay, so this is how this works. Even if you're not good at sponsoring, recruiting, selling, can you give away samples? Can you have a customer register for free, whether you register them because you knew them, because you sent out a link through your Facebook or your Twitter, or you purchase customer registrations? Can you have customers register for free, one, and then give them something of value, whatever your company's product or service happens to be, as a sample? If you can do that, ladies and gentlemen, you should be able to make money every single day with this type model. Okay? Now, before I continue, and wow, look at the numbers now on this webinar. Good grief. Beautiful. Okay? Before we continue, I do want to level with our audience. Okay? And I pray that by now you've captured my heart and my spirit, and that you won't judge me too harshly with what I'm about to say. I'm 42 years young. All of my adult life, virtually all of my adult life, I've had an addiction. I've had a challenge. I've had a problem. And again, hopefully, you won't be turned off by that. And I'm going to show you my addiction. Good day. My name's T. Lamont Silver Sr. I am a slushy and a smoothie-aholic. Ladies and gentlemen, all my adult life, I've loved my slushies. I've loved my smoothies. And, you know, there would be times when I could go to a 7-Eleven and get me 3 big gulp slushies in a day. Well, as I'm now 42, I know I've got to eat better and look after my health better and all those good things. And so I want to start weaning myself away from processed sugars as much as I possibly could. So we had done that for a while. We had gone just cold turkey. We had stopped slushes. And for several months, we didn't have a slush, didn't have slushy, didn't have a smoothie unless we made it with fresh fruits and so on and so forth. And my family and I, we were on the road. And, you know, we were driving a long distance, and my little girl got hungry. She's 5 years young. She was probably 4 at the time. And she sees the Golden Arches, and she said, Daddy, 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 I'm hungry. Can I get some French fries, so on and so forth? I know it's not the best food. I know that. But, you know, we were wanting to get back on the road. So I stopped in, went in, family of 5, my wife and 3 adorable children, went in to go get our food. And my gosh, they were giving away mango, pineapple smoothies as a sample. Now, guess what I did? Took the sample, and then guess what I did? I bought one. Then guess what I did? I came back and bought some more. Not at that McDonald's, but they'd got me hooked. Okay, I'd fallen off the wagon. And then guess what I did? I bought some more. Okay. And then guess what I did? I told some other people, man, those mango pineapple smoothies. Then I'd be out and about. I'd get me a mango pineapple smoothie, and I'd get one for my wife. What's the whole point of what we've just shared here? The whole idea is for we, the affiliates of our companies, to give away samples in the hopes that the person we give the samples to will use the sample like the sample of the product or service, come back and buy that product or service again and again and again, and in this day of social media, perhaps even tweet about it. Maybe even Facebook about it, maybe even LinkedIn about it. Not even being an affiliate necessarily, but just being a satisfied customer. Now, this whole idea of sampling is not new. You've gone to a shopping mall, walked past the food court, smelled the aroma, went and there were several different options, and there was somebody standing in front of one of the restaurants, maybe multiple, giving away samples. You took the sample. Ooh, that's good. Now, what's that called again? Oh, yeah, I want some of that. Yeah, I want some of that. What happened? You tested the product or service. You liked the product or service. You bought the product or service. And if it was really good, guess what happened? You would go back. When you went back to the food court, when you went back to the mall, so on and so forth. Now, this idea of sampling is not new to the home business industry. What you see right now is a chart of the top gross selling companies in our industry, meaning they have the most gross sales, the most gross revenue of any of the other companies in our home business industry. Avon leads the pack. New company? No. Been around since 1886. Obviously, most of us are familiar. They're in the cosmetic space and the personal care space, so on and so forth. They do $11 billion in business a year. $358 per second. Another 358. Another 358. Another 358. Another 358. Amway, $9.2 billion. Herbalife, $2.73 billion a year. Mary Kay, $2.5 billion with the B dollars a year in revenue. Now, if we had time to take a poll, chances are you know someone, including yourself, that's gotten a sample from somebody who was marketing Avon or Amway products or Herbalife or Mary Kay or New Skin or USANA or Isogenics. These are some of the top sales producing companies, producing the most amount of sales in our industry. So this idea of sampling is not new. It's just that these companies that have figured this out say, we're going to pay you if you will purchase some inventory from us, some samples, give that inventory away, do a little advertising to help promote our name. That is typically that task I was telling you about. Most companies require 1 or 2 simple tasks a day. Many of them only require that you place an ad a day as one of your qualifiers. So if you buy some inventory, give away those samples, place an ad, the companies that have figured this out the best say, we'll pay you. We'll pay you. We'll pay you. Okay. So let's say that you had the wherewithal to purchase $1,000 worth of your company's product to give to samples, to give out as samples to your customers. Remember, your customers registered for free. You maybe even leverage a third-party system to get the customer registrations. All right? So there may not even be anyone that you know right now. You give them the samples. You would generate, in this example, 1,000 points or 1,000 credits. Why? Was it just because you purchased $1,000 worth of samples? No. It's because you purchased $1,000 worth of samples, then gave the samples away to your registered customers. So the companies that have figured this out the best, you don't get rewarded points or credits just by making a purchase. You get rewards points or credits because you made that purchase and you gave the product or service away as a sample, as a way to invite the customer to come and do more business. Now, here's the beautiful part about this. You see a garage in front of you now. You see that garage is filled with cars. Why? Because I want you parking your car in your garage. I want you using your basement for something else. Most of these companies, when I'm talking about sampling, when I'm talking about buying inventory from them to give away samples, I'm not talking about you having to have a physical inventory. Many of these companies have a virtual product. Some of these companies have been in advertising. Some companies where people could advertise their offer and you purchase advertising as an example. Some of these companies were in the penny auction space where you purchase sample bids and you would give sample bids away. We're seeing an evolution where now some companies have actual physical product, but you never have to store the physical product that you're giving away as a sample. The manufacturer ships the product directly to your customer. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's now that we've got a foundation here, all right, now what we want to do is we want to start to put some meat on the bones. All right, here we go. So this is how this works, ladies and gentlemen. This is how this works. Let's say that your company generated that day $500,000 in revenue. And that revenue can come from a number of different sources. That revenue can come from affiliates that purchase inventory. That revenue could come from a monthly subscription. Most of these companies will have a small monthly subscription that could range anywhere from $10 a month to as high as $250 a month. Normally, if a company has a higher monthly subscription, there are normally several steps in between. So maybe it's 10 and 50 and 100 and 200, so on and so forth. Okay. By the way, don't let that be an issue, because in many cases, in 90 to 120 days, you typically, most people, if they follow the things that your leader will teach you in your particular company, in most cases, your revenue from your company in anywhere from 30 to 90 to maybe 120 days is enough to cover your monthly subscription. So that's where revenue can come from, monthly subscriptions. Revenue obviously comes from when a customer makes purchases. They actually buy your company's product or service. If an affiliate, who can also be a customer, buys the company's product or service, and there's a number of different ways, other ways that the company can generate revenue. In this example, company generates $500,000. They choose to share half of that, 50%. So they're going to share that night, in this example, $250,000 with who? All of the qualified affiliates that completed their daily task. Now, here's the thing. That could be a lot of affiliates, all right? And all these affiliates have points or credits, whatever your company calls it. So James, he's got points, and Cynthia, she's got points, and Elaine has points, and Adam's got points, and Quentin's got points. And so what happens is the system looks at all the points that are in the system, takes the revenue it's sharing, divides it by all the points in the system, and is able to determine the reward that each credit or each point is going to receive that night. I like to refer to it as a reward per. And let's do the numbers. Pull up my calculator. Let's do the numbers so you can see it. $250,000 in our example, divided by 20, and that is million. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Credits in this hypothetical example that we're using. So every credit in that company system, every point in that company system, with this example, would have earned 0.0125 reward per credit, or reward per point, depending on what your company calls it. Okay, what does that mean? Well, let's say that you had 100 credits, 100 points. Every point, every credit that night got the same reward. The system is not discriminating. The system doesn't say, wait a minute, these points are owned by Joe Superstar, who's a great recruiter and a great business builder, so let's pay him more rewards per credit or point. But these points over here are owned by someone who's not recruited one affiliate. No, the system's not discriminatory like that. It's going to reward all points, all credits the same that evening, at least for the companies that have figured this out the best. So if you had 100 points or credits and you earn 0.0125 that particular night per point per credit, you earned a reward of 1.25. Now, some companies pay that reward in hard cold cash. Some companies pay that reward in an internal currency. There's one company, for instance, they refer to theirs, I'll call it discount dollars. That's not what they call it, but since they have it trademarked and we're not talking about a specific company, I'll say discounted dollars. They would pay in discounted dollars. Discounted dollars can be converted into cold hard cash, a certain percentage, or discounted dollars can be used to as a coupon in that company system. Okay, so you earned a reward of 1.25. We'll call it discounted dollars in this example. All right, now, if you had 1,000 credits, you would have earned the same reward per credit that night, but because you've got more credits, more points, earning that reward, you earned a larger reward. So we're starting to see a pattern here. The more points I have, the more credits you have, the more money we make. 10,000 points, 10,000 credits that night would have gotten the same reward. 125 would have been your reward. Let's call it $125, 125 discount dollars, whatever. Even if your company pays in an internal type currency system, you can typically convert a large percentage of that into cold hard cash and request that as commissions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if I was doing a company-specific webinar, I probably couldn't show, regulators wouldn't want me to show anything beyond maybe 10,000. But I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen folks in this model in short order get to 50,000 points, 60,000 credits. Points and credits are the same. 100,000. What if this person, you had 100,000 points or credits, and that's what the company paid out as a reward per credit? And there have been days, and a lot of you know that have been a part of this type model, where your company may be paid out a much higher reward per credit or per point that particular evening. There'll be times it'll be higher, there'll be times it'll be lower. Those rewards per credit, per point, vary day to day depending on the revenues that was generated, the number of points and credits that are in the system, and a number of other factors. We've even seen some folks get to $250,000, $500,000, $1 million points or credits. Now, I have the X's there. If I was doing a specific webinar, I'm not doing one specific to a company. Ladies and gentlemen, we were leveraging a company in this revenue sharing space, and we had a couple folks that we had personally sponsored that got up to the million point mark. Imagine this, 0.0125 times a million. Imagine this for the night, $12,500. Not for a year, not for a month, not for a week. That was for a day. That was for a day. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we have seen, I'm going to give you a couple testimonies here, okay? I'm going to give you, as a matter of fact, one of our guys actually got to 1.4 million points with a particular company that we were promoting for. I want to give you a couple testimonies here real quickly, okay? And I'm going to vary them just a little bit here. I'm going to vary them. I'm going to give you a couple testimonies of some folks that were not business builders, not people that build large organizations, large teams. I'm going to give you a couple testimonies of some folks that were business builders, okay? buddy of mine named Ramondo. Ramondo, when he started with his particular company that he was leveraging, he had a few dollars to work with. Now, one of the things is you want to purchase as much of your company's inventory as your resources allow. The only thing I want you to do is make sure that you raise your right hand and you pledge that you'll never hurt your family. In other words, I don't want you to purchase, some companies will allow you to purchase as much as $10,000 or more of their inventory. Don't purchase $10,000 worth of inventory if you don't have $10,000 of discretionary funds. Don't go and get a loan and do that. Don't go and put that on a credit card where you've got a monthly payment and you don't have the resources to cover the monthly payment. Okay, I want you to purchase as much inventory as your resources allow. Treat it like you would an offline brick and mortar retail type outlet, whether that's clothes or wellness products or a convenience store. If you are opening up a retail outlet, you'd want to have as much inventory as you could afford. Just don't hurt your family. Ramondo had a few resources. Ramondo made a $9,400 purchase of his company's inventory. Okay, started giving those away to customers. Ramondo was not good at recruiting or sponsoring. Had been in the multi-level marketing, network marketing space for quite a few years. Had gone to the meetings, had done the home parties, had done all those things, and had just never really made a lot of money. So he said, T. Lamont, I'm not looking to recruit right now. I'm not looking to sponsor or sell. Matter of fact, I may never. Okay. Ramondo made a $9,400 purchase. He completed his company's daily tasks. Okay. About 90 days into Ramondo's business enterprise, he was his point total had grown from 9,400 to roughly 27,000 points. So now all of a sudden, when he was getting his daily reward, instead of that daily reward being on, let's say, roughly 9,400 points, that daily reward was based on 27,000 points. After about 90 days, Ramondo said, I want to start getting a consistent income. And he started off, these are real numbers, ladies and gentlemen, he started off at about $100 a week. He figured that, hey, $400 a month, that's not bad. So about 120 days into his business, about 4 months into his business, he had not referred one affiliate. He had not recruited one affiliate. He was taking as commissions about $100 a week, putting it in cash in hand, and that was about $400 a month. The next month, he gave himself a raise of about $150 a week because his point totals, his credit totals were ever growing, so he was earning more and more. So he said, hey, I'm going to give myself a raise. That was about $600 a month. Now, listen, let me just stop here, right here. The average person in this industry does not make $500 or $600 a month. If they did, in the U.S., when we saw all those folks lose their homes to foreclosure, many of those homes would have been saved. A buddy of mine who happens to be on the webinar, one of my mentors in this industry, Zeke and Jerry, taught me years and years and years ago that if you really want to win in this industry, don't focus on you making 20 grand a month or 50 grand a month or 100 grand a month. Focus on getting your average person making $300 to $400 a month. He said, T. Lamont, if you will build a large network of people making $300 to $400 to $500 a month, you'll win big time. So here, Ramondo, about 5 months in, and he still had not recruited any affiliates. About 5 months in, he was at about $600 a month. Now, there's a formula that with that particular company that we taught Ramondo, and he wasn't even using that formula to its maximum potential to generate even more revenue. Once he started using the formula that we taught him, and you'll check with your sponsor and see with your specific company if there's a particular formula that you use to start, taking out a consistent income. Once Ramondo started using the formula that we taught him, in his 6th month, he jumped up from about 150 a week to somewhere between $800 and $900 a week. Cash coming into his pocket every single week. Every single week. So we're talking $3,200 to maybe $3,600 a month. And at that point, Ramondo still had not referred an affiliate. 6 months in, Ramondo was generating what for many people would have been a full-time income, and he had not referred one affiliate then. Ramondo messed up my story. See, I would brag on Ramondo. I would praise Ramondo. I would talk about Ramondo's story because there would be a lot of folks that weren't good at recruiting or sponsoring or selling. And when they heard Ramondo's story, the dude hadn't recruited a soul from an affiliate standpoint. It gave them hope. It gave them a light at the end of the tunnel. If Ramondo could do it, I can do it. And then Ramondo messed up the story. Because now that Ramondo was making money, guess what he did? He told somebody. He actually told a couple people. And 1 week he referred 2 people, and those 2 people joined and they made their purchases, and then he started getting overrides. But this is where Ramondo was, ladies and gentlemen, and he had not referred one affiliate at that time. Let me give you another story. Okay? I'm gonna give you 2 more stories here. All right? Now, you look at that and you say, okay, that's great for Ramondo, but I don't have a $9,400 budget. All right? All right, let me give you another one. All right? This is the story of Lynn. Lynn didn't have a very large budget either. All right? If that happens to be you. Now, what Lynn did is Lynn made a fairly small purchase. I shouldn't say that because it's all relative. So this could have been a huge purchase for Lynn. So please forgive me, Lynn, if you happen to be here. But in terms of a $9,400 purchase, nothing even close. Lynn made a purchase of less than $200 of her company's inventory. Lynn did refer one affiliate. Lynn did refer one affiliate. That one affiliate purchased about $1,000 worth of inventory. Lynn did not refer any other affiliates other than that one, and that one affiliate did not refer any affiliates. Now, because Lynn didn't have as much inventory, couldn't give away as much inventory, Lynn didn't have the same amount of points or credits out of the gate that Ramondo had. Ramondo was able to generate more credits and points out of the gate. Why? Because he purchased more inventory, gave that inventory away. That's what generated the points for him. So it took Lynn a little bit longer. All right? But a little more than a year later, Lynn's point and or credit totals had grown to the point that Lynn was able to start generating $1,000. Now, it didn't take her a year before she started to get some type of cash withdrawal on a consistent basis. But about a year or so, maybe a little bit more than a year, in her enterprise, she was starting to put cash in hand about $1,000 a week, $4,000 a month. I want you to think about that, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to think about that. Think about how powerful that is. Let me give you another story. The reason I love doing this particular webinar because I can tell these stories. If I was promoting for a specific company, I would probably have some great limitations depending on that company's policy for sharing these type stories. Okay, but I think it's important that you see yourself in this model. If you have decent resources and you can make a decent sized purchase, notice that with Ramondo was able to get to those types of income levels sooner rather than later. All right. Lynn didn't have a lot of resources. All right. Don't despise not the day of small beginnings. Get started with the person who referred to you where you are. All right. Now let me share one other one. Lacey, like Lynn, when Lacey got started with this type model, Lacey didn't have a lot of resources either. Now, Lacey had been in the industry for a while and had some successes in the industry. At that time, I don't know exactly what the issue was, but Lacey was down on their fortunes, and though they saw the business, didn't have a lot of resources to make a large inventory purchase. Lacey purchased about $140 worth of their company's inventory. Okay, now here was the difference. Lacey really started to go to work building Lacey's referral network. Now it didn't take Lacey 12, 15 months to start generating revenue. All right, Lacey started, putting cash in hand much sooner than that. But about 12 months after Lacey joined that particular enterprise, Lacey's point total was just under 1 million points. Now that didn't happen that happened because Lacey began to build a business. Lacey would get commissions by building a referral network that also purchased inventory. And Lacey would take a portion of those commissions and put in his pocket. Lacey would take a portion of those commissions, buy more inventory to accelerate the pace at which they were able to grow their point total. Ladies and gentlemen, in a year's time, Lacey went from barely being able to make a $140 purchase. These are real numbers. Every person that I've just listed here were folks that I personally sponsored in this industry in this particular model. So I know their numbers intimately. Lacey got to the point where Lacey was generating on a weekly basis cash in hand. Wow. I've given you 3 real stories. You should find yourself in one of these 3. Maybe you are Ramondo. You've got a few resources. You get back with the person who referred you. You purchase as much as your resources allow. Just agree not to hurt your family. Maybe you're like Lynn. Didn't have a lot of resources. Maybe not good at recruiting or sponsoring. It took a little bit longer for Lynn to get to $1,000 a week, but we're talking a little more than a year. Now, Lynn could have been doing something like Ramondo did earlier on, maybe $100 a week, $400 a month for a period of a few months or what have you, until they built their point totals and their credit totals up enough to where they were comfortable with the formula that we taught them of being able to generate $1,000 a week. Maybe you see yourself like Lacey. Maybe you have a decent amount where you can make an inventory purchase. Maybe you don't. But you are excited about what you just heard, and you're going to give it your best shot to get the word out to begin to build a referral network. Let me show you how that works. Should you build a referral network? Let me show you how that works. Give me a moment. Should you build a referral network? Give me a moment. We'll come back. Give me a moment here. All right. Now, up to this point, we've talked a lot about, even if you didn't recruit anybody, even if you didn't sponsor an affiliate, let me show you what can happen. Let me show you why Lacey was able to build such a huge point total or credit total in about a year's time frame, okay? And still balance that out with generating some huge cash in hand, 50 grand a week. You do the math on that, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking a couple $100,000 a month. A couple $100,000 a month. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've been in this industry for a long time, so I have rubbed shoulders, all right, with folks that made a couple $100,000 a month, but not after a year's time. Most people that generated those types of revenues, they had been with their company for years and years and years. Not after a year's time. All right, here's what happens. Typically, your company is going to reward you if you do build a referral network. And the percentages change from company to company, but what we tend to see as a general rule is the company gives you anywhere from about a 5% to a 10% override. if you personally sponsor someone, all right, let's say that you personally sponsored Lacey. You sponsored Lacey, all right? If Lacey makes an inventory purchase, Lacey purchases inventory. In this example, Lacey purchased $140 because that's exactly what he did. You get a 10% override, okay, or up to a 10% override. I'm going to use 10% for nice round numbers. Or let's say you made $14. Okay, now, what if you referred Ramondo? Remember what Ramondo's initial purchase was? Ramondo's initial purchase was $9,400. If you referred Ramondo and your company was paying you a 10% override, when he made that $9,400 purchase, you just earned $940. And in most cases, these commissions are paid in real time. Most of your companies will have, they may call it something like an eCash account or what have you. When that purchase is made in real time, that money is sitting in your eCash. If you want to initiate a withdrawal of some or all of that cash, you can do so. Okay? Now, what Lacey did is Lacey started building a referral network. And let's say if Lacey referred Ramondo, made $940, Lacey would take a good amount of that $940, if not all of it, would take a good amount of that $940, buy more inventory, give that inventory away, and that would generate more points or more credit. So if Lacey took $940 and bought more inventory and gave away $940 worth of samples, he just earned 940 more points. Okay, now here's the beautiful part. Okay, so you referred Lacey in our example. Okay, you got your 10% override, $14. Now Lacey starts to build his credit totals, starts to build his point totals. Every night that he has completed his small task, Lacey's making money. And in most cases, every night, he's taken a portion, if not all, of the money that he just generated to buy more inventory to give that inventory away, especially if his point totals aren't really big yet, because he wants to build on those point totals. He wants to build on those credit totals. So this is what we would begin to see, all right? Lacey might have 140 points today, and he earned, I'll just say he earned, we've been doing now 0.0125. All right, so he had 140 points tonight. He generated maybe $1.75 in his daily revenue. Well, if he took that $1.75, bought inventory, gave that away to a customer, he just earned some more points. You just got another 10% override on that $1.75. Well, in time, what we start to see is that Lacey wasn't sitting at 140 points anymore. Maybe he had 1,400 points. Then in time, he grew his point totals to 14,000 points. Now, let's look at what would happen at 14,000 points for the night if his company paid 0.0125. That number there is going to change every single night. It could be up, it could be down, so on and so forth. All right, now all of a sudden, Lacey just made $175 for the night. If Lacey took all or a portion of that to buy more inventory, give it away so he could get more points and grow that point total. All right, let's say he did the whole 175. You just got a 10% override. That night, you made $17.50. Well, what happened when Lacey got up to 140,000 points? And now all of a sudden, he was generating $1,750 a night. Now, at this point, he's probably putting a portion of that in his pocket. All right? We taught a formula that said, Lacey, now that you're at the point where you want to take out some money on a consistent basis, our formula said, hey, take out maybe 20%. And again, I don't have time. This is not so much a training as it is a presentation, so I don't have time to explain why that formula. But just go with me right now. So if Lacey put 20% of that $1,750 in his pocket and took 80% of that $1,750, to buy more inventory that night, to give away more inventory, to grow his point totals even more, that means that $1,400 of his $1,750 he used to repurchase. Think of it like you would any traditional business when you have a traditional business, you have revenue coming in. Do you spend it all? Do you go and pay put all of it in your pocket, or do you take, especially in the earlier stages of your business, do you take the overwhelming majority of your revenue and put it back to grow your business even further, so that ultimately the day comes when you've got a large enough store, a large enough pot of revenue coming in that you can take out a nice chunk. That's what happened with Lacey. He got to the point he was taking out 50 grand a week. Lynn, $1 grand a week. She didn't make a large purchase to start with, didn't build a huge network. So now all of a sudden, if Lacey purchased $1,400 that night of additional inventory, and you got a 10% override, you got a $140 commission that night. And that's what we saw. That's what we're seeing in this industry. We're seeing if you refer a few folks, and maybe they refer a few folks, and so on and so forth, these point totals, these credit totals grow, and over time, your overrides on their daily activity gets immense. So for years, we taught monthly residual income. Taught my children, my boys are 17 and 15, my little girl is 5. Taught my children when they were young, my sons were maybe 6 or 7 or 8. I would say, what's monthly residual income, sons? They would say, Daddy, monthly residual income is money that's paid to you month after month after month for something you did right one time. Well, this model 2 years ago, when I found this model and started employing this model, I had to change my terminology, because it's not monthly residual income anymore. It's not weekly residual income. It's daily residual income, which is why we say every day can be what? It can be payday. Maybe you don't refer one Lacey that generates 1 million points. Maybe you refer quite a few Ramondos or Lynn that over time they build up their points, and collectively they have something like this going on between them, and now all of a sudden you're making $100, $200, $300 a night in referral commissions on top of your daily revenue. Ladies and gentlemen, we've seen folks making $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 or more a night in referral commissions with this model. Going to give you one more story, and then we'll start rounding third. I'm going to give you one more story. Maybe you got excited about the fact that you can make money even if you didn't recruit or sponsor or sell. And as well you should. But I don't want you walking away from this webinar not understanding the power that you could really generate if you did refer to your opportunity. Okay? Now, the beautiful part is, because you don't have to, it almost becomes like this. My little girl is 5. Her name is Heaven. I call her Pretty Girl. Pretty Girl, don't you go in there. You hear Daddy? Daddy said, don't you go in there. You hear me? Pretty Girl, you hear me? And she'll say, yes, Daddy. Don't you go in there. You hear me? Yes, Daddy. I won't. Yes, Daddy. Daddy turns his back, and what does Pretty Girl do? She goes in there. You don't have to recruit. Don't you dare sponsor. Don't you don't you dare tell a soul. Guess what happens? Ramondo. I told you Ramondo messed it up. Ramondo. He went and told a soul. How could he keep that to himself? The fact that he had not referred anyone, and he had been in the business for just a few months, though he had tried this industry for a few years, and he was now generating more money on a monthly basis in the few short months that he had been with that model than he had probably generated in all the number of years that he had been in this industry. How could he keep that to himself? One last story. We start the round third. Another couple in their 70s. Couple in their 70s. Referred 2 affiliates. That's it. Referred 2. One of their affiliates did not refer any other affiliates. One of their affiliates built a huge organization. What happened was the affiliate that built a huge organization, as that affiliate was building that organization, that affiliate's points totals kept growing and growing and growing. Now, I've only shown what happens if you refer personally. I haven't shown you what happens if your referrals refer. Typically, companies will also pay you a commission ongoing when that happens as well. When they refer and those people purchase packages, you're not paid just because you refer to an affiliate. It's because they purchase inventory, and they're probably repurchasing some inventory every single day to give away as more samples to generate more points. So what happened with this particular couple is they referred two folks as affiliates. One of their affiliates never referred an affiliate, had the point total, completed their daily task, made their money. One of their affiliates went to work. Now, this couple started off a few months after they had gotten started, much like Ramondo, about $100 a week or $400 a month. That next month, they gave themselves a raise, about $150 a week, about $600 a month. I don't remember exactly how they scaled it, but they eventually got to $1,000 a week, about $4,000 a month. This was a couple in their 70s, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about adding to their retirement, because they didn't have a lot of it. Social Security was barely making ends meet. They both in their 70s had to go back to work. They weren't working with the companies they had worked with for so many years that provided, a little 401k or pension or what have you, but they both had to go back to work. About 15 months with their company, they were at $6,000 a week. About $24,000 a month, a little bit more than that. I've given you 4 stories. You should find yourself in one of those 4 stories. Now, here's the only thing. If you don't get back to the person who referred you, if you don't engage with what they're sharing with you, then all this was a story. It was true for someone else, but for you it's just a story. It's not reality yet. I want this to be reality for you. So this is what I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to get back to the person who referred you. I want you to get back to the person who referred you. I don't care what their company is. You get their link and you join. You have to add this model to your income producing portfolio. That person may be leveraging 2 or 3 companies with this model. If they send you 2 or 3 links, join with those 2 or 3 links. Then, now most of the companies will allow you to register for free, so it didn't cost you anything to go on and register and join. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to upgrade your position so that you can start generating revenue. You normally are not going to make a lot of money, if any, as a free affiliate, but that at least allows you to get into the system and start to learn some of the nuances of your particular company. Now, most of your companies are going to have multiple subscription options to choose from. I've seen them as low as $10 a month. I've seen them $50 a month. I've seen $100 a month. I've seen $200 a month. I've seen $250 a month. Now, typically, you won't just have a $250 a month subscription or a $200 a month subscription. Normally, it would stair step. So maybe it's a 10 and a 50 and a 100 or what have you. What you want to do is whatever your company's top subscription is, that gives you the biggest bang for your overall buck. I strongly suggest you consider starting with that highest monthly subscription, whatever it is, whether it's $100 a month or $250 a month. Just budget that in your initial budget of getting started. So if you were going to budget a certain amount to purchase inventory, include that monthly subscription in that initial budget. What we find is that most people within about a 30 to a 90 to 120 day period, they're generating enough revenue from their daily revenues to cover their monthly subscription, so their monthly subscription doesn't become a forever and ever amen bill where you've got to pay it, until the end of time. Okay. Then what you want to do is you want to purchase inventory. Some companies allow you to purchase as much as $10,000 or even $12,000 worth of inventory. If you've got the resources to do it, not going to hurt your family, go for it. Other companies won't allow you to purchase that much out of the gate, but you can purchase as much inventory over time as you need, as long as you've given that inventory away to enough folks. So I know there's one company that will soon be launching. They're not public just yet, but when they launch to the public as early as next week, they'll start pre-registration. I think the maximum you can purchase is $2,500 as an inventory package. But once you've given away a good amount of that inventory, you can purchase another $2,500, another $2,500. The reason you want to purchase as much as your resources allow, remember Ramondo's example? Ramondo had the resources, all right? And because he had the resources, he was able to give away more inventory very quickly, generate more points very quickly. So the more inventory you can afford to purchase, just don't hurt your family, the better in terms of your positioning to generate more revenue sooner rather than later. Okay, just don't hurt your family. Okay, and then lastly, what you want to do is you want to tie into your leader's training and or the company's training. The person that referred you may be having their own conference calls, maybe doing their own webinars, may have a team site. Maybe they're doing it, or maybe one of their teammates or team leaders is doing it. Typically, that company that you're promoting for will have some conference calls or some webinars or some training that you can tie into. You want to learn the nuances of your system. I paint it with a very broad stroke here. You want to learn the nuances of your system, and you can always leverage the webinars that we're doing here to help you build your following. What we find is that people that use this particular webinar, because we can say things that probably can't be said in your company-specific webinar, we're able to share some stories that sometimes people weren't able to get otherwise. So that tends to help your person that you are prospecting say, I want to get started. We also find that utilizing this medium, we get a chance to talk about the differences between a person purchasing a larger inventory package if they have the resources and them not being able to purchase as large of an inventory package without the regulatory concerns that we would have if we were talking about a specific company. All right, so feel free to leverage these webinars. By the way, here is the webinar link, www.everydaycanbepayday.webinar.com. So you can leverage this link. When you go there, it'll give you our lineup of upcoming webinars. You can send that link out to any of your prospects so they can come and check us out. By the way, we are recording tonight's webinar, and if we get a very good recording from it, we'll post it to a site where this webinar could be seen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, this is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to pause everything. I want to go on and stop the video recording, and then I want to open it up for about 15 minutes of optional Q&A. I want the questions and answers to be about this general model. I'm not here to provide support for any specific company, so just keep that in mind. And I certainly want, if you are a guest of someone and you have some questions, I definitely want to be able to field your questions and answer as many of them as I possibly can. So this would be a good time. You've got a questions box over to the right. If you would open up that questions box. If you would open up that questions box and feel free to put your questions in there. Someone was telling me the example that I showed a person, Lynn, and Lynn referred one affiliate. That affiliate grew their point total. That one affiliate that Lynn referred grew their point total to somewhere close to 60,000 points. So one of the reasons that Lynn was able to eventually uh, uh, get about $1,000 a week in commissions, one of the reasons that was able to happen is, you think about it, if Lynn has a one referral that's got 50,000 points, and that evening, I'm just keeping with this example of 0.0125. It could be more, it could be less. 0.0125, and the formula that we taught, that particular following, based on what that company was doing, was to take, once you're ready to start pulling money out as a commission, take 20% and put it in your pocket, and the 80% you continue to purchase inventory and give away to grow your point totals even more. And so if that is what that person's sponsor was doing, affiliate was doing, that means they were repurchasing about $500 worth of inventory a night. Well, if Lynn, who was at a 10% commission rate, was getting 10%, Lynn was earning about an extra $50 a night in overrides. Not to mention Lynn's own daily revenue sharing from having built Lynn's point total. And ladies and gentlemen, I've known Lynn for close to a decade now. All right? No. Is that right? Yeah, close to a decade. Just phenomenal people. Absolutely love me some Lynn. We had been involved in business together for about 10 years, about 8 years prior to that point, eight and a half years prior to that point. Not necessarily on each other's team, but maybe in the same company. And Lynn would actually help me do a lot of conference calls and webinars and things of that nature. And I know that Lynn just had did everything that she was taught to do, but it just wasn't coming together in terms of income. And then to see a year with that one company, whereas I had seen Lynn several years in other companies, just in struggle mode from a business standpoint, trying to get that thing off the ground, to be at a point with one referral where a year later, $1,000 a week, $4,000 a month, that's life-changing. That's absolutely life-changing. I got an email today, someone saying, I think this is relative to the holidays, because of this type model, that they were able to do some things for their family for the holidays that they hadn't been able to do in quite some time, maybe never. And they were just so grateful and thankful. We